Well, welcome to the 700 Club. The United States Supreme Court has handed the state of Virginia a pre-election victory. The decision allows the Commonwealth to remove non-citizens from voter rolls.
More than 100 election-related lawsuits have already been filed in several states. Legal experts say the decision in Virginia shows the High Court is committed to protecting voter rolls. Gary Lane has the story.
In a 6-3 ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court blocked a federal court decision that would have prevented the state of Virginia from removing 1,600 names from its voter rolls. The U.S. Department of Justice sued the state after non-citizens and other individuals were placed on an inactive voter list within 90 days of the election, a violation of federal law. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin argued the state regularly removes names from its rolls each month when it receives information from the Department of Motor Vehicles indicating an applicant's non-citizenship status on driver's license applications. Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares claimed a temporary victory, insisting that the state will continue to protect the rights of legal voters.
But it should be two standards: easy to vote, hard to cheat. That's the standard we have in Virginia. That's why this is a ruling winning for not just upholding the rule of law, but I just say common sense.
On CBN's Faith Nation program, Cedarville University political science professor Mark Caleb Smith said he doesn't believe the Supreme Court stay will significantly affect the outcome of the presidential vote in Virginia.
Virginia isn't considered to be one of those really close states. You know, if this were happening in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, potentially up to 1,600 votes could be pretty important, maybe. In Virginia, I think that's probably unlikely. But it does at least suggest the Supreme Court may be willing to engage in a way that maybe people didn't think would happen even as little as a few days ago.
Republicans and various other groups have filed 100 similar lawsuits in other states. In Texas, they're suing the Harris County Registrar for not removing 562,000 voter names from voter registration rolls. Harris County includes Houston, which is the 5th largest city in America. Attorney Jared Whitfield filed the lawsuit on behalf of his clients. He believes that the Supreme Court's decision, while temporary, will have an impact.
It sends a very clear message that the United States Supreme Court is concerned about voter rolls or voter rosters to make sure they're accurate. You can only commit the voter fraud when you have a roster that is incorrect. So it's so important in order to maintain the integrity of our elections to make sure at that starting point, at that voter roster, that it's accurate and correct.
While the Supreme Court's focus on voter rolls is significant, this is not the conclusion of the Virginia case or similar cases. Courts across the country are preparing to hear hundreds of election challenges in the coming weeks and months. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Well, the Virginia case, it seems to be causing quite a stir, and it really doesn't make any sense to me that it would. The federal government the Department of Justice, I should say, tried to say, well, it violated a 90-day rule that you can't do things within 90 days of an election. And the Supreme Court has come in and said, well, wait a minute, before the 90-day period, if you're a non-citizen, by definition, you don't get a right to vote. We don't extend voting rights to people who aren't citizens of the United States. And so this is a normal process, and Virginia said every single month we're reviewing our voting rolls to make sure everything is correct. But here's, I guess, sort of the bottom line. I'm pretty sure 1,600 votes in Virginia isn't going to make a difference. When you look at the number of Democrats in Northern Virginia and the city of Richmond, they tend to carry the state in every single election. And Virginia, like much of the nation, is divided, where the mountain regions, Southwest Virginia are staunchly Republican, but Northern Virginia, Richmond, are staunchly Democrat, and then here in the Hampton Roads, Tidewater area, tends to be split. And so when you have those big population centers voting, that pretty much decides every election for Virginia. So it's not going to make a difference. And that needs to be the message. All of these lawsuits, when you get right down to the actual number of contested votes, it turns out to be very small. And that contested vote really doesn't make a difference in the larger election outcome. Here's what will make a difference: you making a decision to actually vote. If you're a citizen, please participate in our democratic republic. It's because of your vote we get to elect representatives to champion our causes in the Congress, the Senate, the White House, and the State House, and the local city council, local school board. All of these elections really matter, and they need our participation to make it all work. So please resolve you will vote, and you will vote on a regular basis. In other news, reaction to President Biden's trash talk has become the main topic on the campaign trail. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. Both campaigns are responding to President Biden's recent remarks referencing Trump supporters as garbage. Vice President Harris, pledging to be president of all people if elected, rejected the comment.
President Biden took his comment last night about garbage.
Listen, I think that, first of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for.
The Trump campaign came out swinging. The former president dressed as a sanitation worker and climbed into a garbage truck to draw attention to Biden's comment, dredging up a comment made by his 2016 campaign opponent.
That's like deplorable for Hillary. This is the deplorable for Hillary. And I think this is worse, actually. For Joe Biden to make that statement, it's really a disgrace.
The fallout started when a comedian at Trump's rally in New York described Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage. Heading into the final days of the campaign, an average of recent polls show the two candidates in a statistical tie nationally, as well as in crucial battlegrounds like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. Well, turning overseas, the conflict in the Middle East, just days after Israel's attack on Iran, lawmakers in the Islamic Republic are talking openly about hitting back at the Jewish state. As CBN's Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the strike could come before the U.S. election next week.
Members of Iran's parliament are promising an attack on Israel would be painful.
They should expect a response that will make them regret everything. They will not dare act like this again.
Hezbollah's new leader, who's hiding in Iran, is also making threats. In his first speech, Naim Qassem threatened Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, but he also said Hezbollah is ready to accept a ceasefire if conditions are right. On that front, Lebanon's prime minister says he's hopeful negotiators are able to, quote, have a ceasefire within the coming hours or days. A leaked proposal brokered by the U.S. calls for Israeli troops to be out of Lebanon within a week. Hezbollah would reportedly honor UN Resolution 1701, a peace deal it's ignored for decades. However, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly believes it will be better to physically remove Hezbollah from the border than depend on a written agreement on paper. In Riyadh, Saudi Arabia hosted 90 nations and international groups for the first ever international meeting to work out a so-called two-state solution. A majority of Israelis believe a two-state solution would pose an existential threat to Israel. The head of UNRWA was at the Saudi gathering.
The two-state solution is the internationally agreed framework.
Israel just banned UNRWA because of its links to Hamas, and hundreds of its employees are suspected to be tied to the terror group. Israeli Cabinet Minister Amichai Chikli tells CBN News how UNRWA has indoctrinated generations of Palestinian children.
This is UNRWA ideology, and by the way, it's also very, very important to understand the jihadist ideology, to train the kids to hate, anti-Semitism, to teach them that the war against the Jews and killing the Jews, that is the most important thing on earth. And this is also a part of what we saw on October 7th.
Chikli believes the legislation passed by the Knesset this week puts UNRWA in its place after October 7th.
We say we do not recognize the legitimacy of this organization anymore. An organization that was leading terror attacks, that was part of the massacre of October 7th, there will be zero collaboration and recognition for UNRWA.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Here at home, President Biden recently made history by apologizing to Native Americans for a dark episode in history. Policy separating children from their families led to the destruction of Native languages and cultures. However, a sovereign tribe in Oklahoma with deep Christian roots is witnessing a revival. As CBN's Brody Carter reports, the Choctaw community is using scripture in their native language to preserve both faith and heritage.
Oklahoma is home to 39 Native American nations. We're currently overlooking one of the largest tribal lands, the Choctaw Nation, where the people here have a rich history of Christianity interwoven into its culture. And now, as part of a larger effort to bring the Bible to every language, a dedicated few are translating scripture into their native tongue, a continuation of a legacy that began in the 1800s.
John 3:16,
At Grace Indian Baptist Church in Tallahena, Oklahoma, Pastor Raymond Johnson plays a vital role in the Choctaw translation effort.
The Choctaw Bible is about 25 years worth of work, and the Choctaw hymn book took us 8 years to get this. The reason why it took so long because it was nobody got paid to do it.
Johnson is a curator, collecting Choctaw scriptures and hymns, while his brother-in-law, Clifford Ludlow, translates the text. Working together with the Global Bible Society, their labor of love helped create this King James Choctaw Bible, bringing the language to a new generation.
But the more they read it, I do feel like that they could and look at the English part and then go back and forth just like.
As the Choctaw language faces modern challenges, there's a deeper significance to the translation work.
We were not allowed to speak our language. We were forbidden. We were put in boarding schools, all those types of things.
Choctaw Nation Chief Gary Batten says tribe members have only been able to speak their language since 1979, when they ratified their constitution.
Most people don't know that Native Americans weren't allowed to vote until the 60s.
Christianity within the tribe dates back more than 200 years. Introduced by the Presbyterian Church, it became a foundation of strength in 1829, when then-President Andrew Jackson forced them from their homeland as part of the Trail of Tears. Today, the Choctaw Nation spans 11,000 square miles in southeastern Oklahoma, still standing strong in its faith, as declared by Chief Batten after his inauguration in 2014.
I see movement happening because I feel like we're embracing Christianity. We're closer, I think, than ever to God, because everywhere you go throughout the Choctaw Nation, you know it's okay. You're within a Christian nation. It's okay to pray. It's okay to share your faith.
In helping make the Choctaw Bible more accessible, the YouVersion Bible app has digitized 2 Choctaw translations in partnership with the British and Foreign Bible Society.
It's difficult for us in English to sort of fully appreciate what it would be like if the Bible was not available in our heart language, because we've always had it available in our heart language.
YouVersion founder and CEO Bobby Grunwald understands the importance and sees the potential of making these translations available.
When you have an app that is opened 270 times every second, and it's in 70+ languages, the Bible itself in over 2,000 languages, there's a scope and complexity to it that's not obvious to people when they use it. But we believe it's just the start. I mean, the team will probably double or even triple in size over the next several years. But we're humbled to be a part of something God's doing and love to have others join us.
For Pastor Raymond Johnson and his small congregation, this connection with Scripture is a spiritual lifeline that ties the Choctaw people to their faith, culture, and history.
Well, your language is your identity. At this point in history, I think we have less than 500 fluent speakers in the Choctaw Nation, and we've had probably about 250,000 on our membership roll. And so it's dying.
Hopefully, the team effort to translate the Bible can help resurrect the Choctaw language and ensure the Christian faith will be passed down for generations to come. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Great reporting, Brody, and how meaningful it is to have the Bible in one's own native language. Terry, over to you.